The new iPhone is here, and when a new iPhone comes out, it is a really, really big deal in the Fiore household.
Oh yeah.
Usually when the new phone comes out, we start using it right away, and we kind of are too excited to make a comparison video. We just end up comparing older footage later. So this year we wanted to do it correctly, and we want to compare the two directly. We're upgrading from the iPhone 13 Pro to the iPhone 14 Pro. And before you think you have to go out and get the next best thing, you might not need to.
Or you might.
Hopefully this video will help you decide. Okay, before we get into the comparison, this is my husband, Taylor. He's also my business partner. We work together full time. Every video you see, he has a hand in making it possible. So if I have a wild idea, we all have him to thank for making it an actual possibility. But anyway, he's super knowledgeable about cameras, about phones. So when I had this idea to make this comparison, I knew I wanted him to be in the video so that he could explain all of the things that I am not so great at explaining. Plus, he's my favorite person to have around. So
Give me more pressure.
it's okay. First up, the front-facing camera. In the intro footage, the 13 made my skin tone a little bit more yellow, while the 14 looked clearer and brighter.
That was one of the first things I noticed too. Apple's claim is 2 times better in low light and 38% better in light gathering. I have no idea how to measure that percentage, but it does definitely gather more light, and as a whole, it does a far better job at replicating color that looks far more editable.
Also, there seems to be more of a blur, and I feel like I'm more in focus on the 14, and there's definitely more color. I notice it most in the clip of me spinning at Disney.
Apple didn't really give any technical info on what exactly changed in this camera, but clearly it got a lot of gains.
You're kind of like, you gotta do not this. Okay, on to the main camera. Overall, the upgrades from the front-facing camera feel the same in this main camera. I know that they said 48 megapixel and stuff, but I don't know if that was supposed to mean way bigger improvements.
As a photographer, hearing 48 megapixels, I got excited, but also really skeptical. Typically, more megapixels means worse low light photos, but I knew that Apple wouldn't let that happen. As a whole, that means we get a lot more detail in the photos even at the normal use of 12 megapixels.
Almost all the footage seems brighter, which is really, really great, especially when it got really dark at Disney. The 13's dark footage is honestly pretty useless, but the 14, you can actually see some of the blue in the sky, which makes it a little less useless. Like you can see the separation of your hair from the background, which is awesome.
I did notice that a lot. Apple's claiming 2 times better in low light. I don't know if I would call it 2 times better, but I will say it is definitely better.
So the only time I did like the 13 more was on that white building as we were walking through California Adventure. It was darker, but the neon lights on the building looked brighter, probably because it was darker. Everything else was darker. In the 14, the footage overall was brighter, so the neon wasn't as much of a contrast.
I would say though, the 14 is probably going to be easier to edit so that you'll be able to get that contrast you're looking for in the edit versus in the camera, because you can't get rid of that contrast.
Yeah, that makes sense. Everyone's skin tone just looks creamier.
Creamy skin, that's so weird.
You know what I mean?
Do I?
Ultra wide camera.
Who let us do this?
That's my favorite one. So I noticed while skating that the sky is a completely different color. The 13 is more washed out and a kind of lighter blue, while the 14 is more vibrant. The color in general is more vibrant, like the grass, my skin while moving. It just seems to catch the light better.
Yeah, as a whole, all the cameras on the 14 have been updated. Apple's claiming 3 times better in low light for the ultra-wide. The tech specs on their site say that the 14 has a 6-element lens. More often than not, the more elements in a lens means the higher quality the image. This is me guessing, but I'd imagine the sensor for this lens is probably something similar to the 13's main sensor.
That makes sense. I see it pretty well in the footage at Disney. Like the main camera, the purple lights in the trees aren't as blown out as the 13, and my skin looks more matte and creamier.
Honestly, I'm happy to welcome any and all sensor improvements. We get more opportunity for the images that we see from the camera look exactly like what our eyes see, and sometimes even better, and that's so wild.
Action mode. I thought this could be really, really cool when we watched the announcement.
I mostly agree.
But doesn't the word action make you, it makes me want to make an action movie.
It will 100% come in handy in a lot of scenarios when I'm chasing you, but other times I know that I'd rather have the versatility of zooming in versus buttery smooth movement.
Wait, you can't zoom in?
No. So, action mode, to make an image stable, as stable as they're trying to do, what they're doing is they're using the ultra wide and cropping it in to basically the same focal length as the main camera. The way most post stabilizations work is it takes a really big image and it shoves it way further into it. Oops, sorry. It really crops it in.
As I'm passing by, I think I'm a little more blurry in the 13 than in the 14.
That is kind of interesting. It doesn't make sense, so I wonder if it's just the way that the 14 processing light different than the 13. The world may never know.
Onto the telephoto.
I wonder if it sees my eyeball.
Yeah, I can see your eyeball. Okay, this one was wild to me, especially on Eddie's face. Eddie, by the way, is our friend who makes really good tech videos. Click on the card or the link in the description to check his stuff out.
Yes to both. I'm so stoked about this one's improvement. Apple's claiming 2 times better in low light, and I kind of feel like they're actually being modest with this one a little bit.
I do believe that. It's seriously so much brighter.
Right? I've been taking so many photos with the telephoto on the 13 before I got the 14 and now also the 14. The first time I used the 14 in low light, I was like, not to mention how much faster night mode is.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. You are all probably like, oh, gosh, they're just talking this thing up. But let's be clear, they're both insanely good cameras for what they are. Taylor had the good idea when we were talking about how we compare these to do some studio shots to show how good they both are.
Honestly, I love new tech, but you don't always need it, and these studio shots might sell you on why you don't need to get the upgrade, but also they might sell you on why you do. As someone who looks at photos a lot, I can see the differences in the two, but if photo and video is not a huge case for you and your phone, I don't necessarily believe you need this upgrade.
I do totally agree with that. I think the biggest thing for me, it's a minor improvement, but there are a lot of times when I'm using the front-facing camera in bright light that certain parts of my face get blown out. And while some people might not notice that, I notice it a lot and I find it really distracting. So I think the best improvement on this phone is the front-facing camera, because it's gonna make the footage that I use a lot less distracting for the viewer. It's gonna make it an overall better experience for the viewer.
So far, it really shocks people when you FaceTime them.
I have heard a lot of reactions when you're FaceTiming people. They're like, dude, what camera are you using?
Honestly, I'm here for all the upgrades. Also, unrelated to the camera, thank you, Apple, for thinking about the weight distribution of the phone, because that is probably my favorite part, honestly, of the whole thing. The 14 is on paper heavier than the 13, but the way they distributed the weight inside the phone makes it feel lighter than the 13.
It really does, and my arthritic wrists appreciate that.
It's still heavier, so it doesn't directly help you.
It does feel lighter, though. Thank you so much for watching this video. We really hope you liked it. Thank you, Taylor, for coming in and explaining the things that I did not know.
You're so welcome.
I really do appreciate it. Please comment below if you are thinking of getting the new phone, if this did help you, if you do love the new phone, if you hate the new phone, whatever your thoughts are, please let us know. And please like and subscribe. We really do appreciate it, and we will see you on the next one.